Impeachment hearing to date. The White House on edge as the public set to see the whistleblower complaint that sparked the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. The acting director of national intelligence in the hot seat this morning testifying. Why did he keep the complaint from Congress? Does he think the president's call to Ukraine's leader put national security at risk? This, as the memo of the phone call is released, President Trump asked for a, quote, favor to investigate his political rival, Joe Biden.
It's a joke. Impeachment for that?
Our political team live in Washington and Ukraine this morning.
State of emergency. Wisconsin slammed by tornadoes. This one leaving a trail of destruction. And now 3 states bracing for monsoon storms.
Vape Nation. New deaths reported and a new alert from the CDC. Now warning there could be hundreds more cases of vaping-related illness. This as the CEO of Juul steps down.
The new warning from the FBI about possible threats tied to the Joker movie and what star Joaquin Phoenix is saying this morning.
Caught on camera, terrifying home invasion. Police searching for this man posing as a FedEx driver, saying he forced his way into a family's home with an accomplice, making off with $130,000 in cash and jewelry.
And out of the deep, the iPhone missing 15 months finally found, discovered at the bottom of a river. And get this, it still worked.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
And we do say good morning, America. Good to have you with us on this Thursday morning. What a day. Big day on Capitol Hill. Here's a live look at where the high-stakes hearing with the acting director of national intelligence is getting underway this morning.
Straight up at 9 a.m., potentially explosive testimony under tight wraps right now. The director will face tough questions about why he withheld the whistleblower complaint from Congress. May also shed light on whether he thinks the president's phone call with Ukraine's leader could have compromised national security. Even some prominent Republicans are calling the evidence in the whistleblower complaint troubling.
But President Trump, George, is dismissing it all, calling it a, quote, witch hunt.
A lot to get to this morning. Senior congressional correspondent Mary Bruce starts us off from Capitol Hill. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, that whistleblower complaint is now here in the hands of Congress, and this morning it is sparking even more questions and some serious concerns. And now in just a few hours, the acting director of national intelligence will be being grilled here about why he stopped that complaint from being turned over to Congress. After seeing the whistleblower complaint that triggered this push to impeach, this morning Democrats and even some Republicans are sounding the alarm.
I found the allegations deeply disturbing. I also found them very credible.
There's obviously some really troubling things here.
But President Trump insists there's nothing to see here.
No push, no pressure, no nothing. It's all a hoax, folks. It's all a big hoax.
The White House summary of the call released yesterday confirms Trump repeatedly asked his Ukrainian counterpart to investigate his political rival, Joe Biden. And Democrats say it validates their move to impeach.
The President of the United States, in breach of his constitutional responsibilities, has asked a foreign government to help him in his political campaign.
On that call, the president, who at the time was withholding hundreds of millions of dollars of military aid for Ukraine, stresses that the United States has been very, very good to Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky thanks Trump for his great support and expresses a desire to buy American anti-tank missiles. Trump's immediate reply, "I would like you to do us a favor, though." He then asks Ukraine to investigate an unsubstantiated theory about stolen Democratic emails, saying, "I would like to have the Attorney General call you. I would like you to get to the bottom of it."
What those notes reflect is a classic mafia-like shakedown of a foreign leader.
Later, Trump turns to his 2020 rival. There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, Trump said, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great, adding that he will tell his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, and Attorney General Barr to call. Trump is referring to unfounded allegations that as vice president, Biden tried to protect his son by stopping an investigation into the Ukrainian company that his son worked for. But there's no evidence Biden did anything wrong.
It's a joke. Impeachment for that?
Sitting side by side yesterday, Zelensky said he never felt pressured.
I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure.
But Democrats are outraged. They say the call is even worse than they could have imagined.
That undermines our national security. That is an abuse of power. That is unpatriotic.
While Republicans are largely falling in line.
From my point of view, to impeach any president over a phone call like this would be insane.
They're looking for a Mueller do-over.
At the end of the day, the Speaker owes an apology to this nation. We are done with this.
But there are a few cracks in that Republican support.
If the President of the United States asks or presses the leader of a foreign country to carry out an investigation of a political nature, that's troubling. And I feel that.
And overnight, Biden weighing in on Kimmel.
It seems to me it's awful hard to avoid the conclusion that it is an impeachable offense.
Now, some Republicans who are voicing concerns with the president's actions here are also cautioning their own fellow Republicans. Senator Ben Sasse saying that they should not be, quote, rushing to circle the wagons and saying there's no there when he says, George, that there's obviously lots that's very troubling there.
And Mary, with every new revelation, the number of Democrats supporting an impeachment inquiry dramatic shifts.
Yeah, George, in order to move ahead, if they want to hold this vote on articles of impeachment, Democrats would need a simple majority, 218 votes to actually impeach the president. And by our count of those who support this inquiry, George, they're closing in on that number.
Closing in on that number right now, and they've had dozens join it just this last week. Okay, Mary, thanks very much. Robin?
And George, as we've been saying, the acting director of national intelligence will face questions on Capitol Hill this morning about why he withheld that whistleblower complaint from Congress. Our senior national correspondent, Terry Moran, has more on the high-stakes hearing. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Robin. Well, this is the main event today. Camera crews already lining up in here. I'm just around the corner from where the hearing will take place. Outside, when I got here, spectators lining up in the pre-dawn darkness. The star witness there, Joseph Maguire, 67-year-old former Navy SEAL and Vice Admiral. And he is the man caught in the middle of the Trump administration's handling of this whistleblower's complaint. He got that complaint, and lawmakers want to know why he did not, as required by law, turn it over to Congress once the Inspector General of the intelligence community found that it was credible and urgent. Who did he talk to at the White House? Who did he talk to at the Justice Department? What does he think of the urgency of this complaint? Now, he got this job 4 days after that complaint was filed, and administration lawyers were already all over it. They were insisting that the law does not require it to be turned over to Congress, so he is literally the guy in the middle. The Washington Post is reporting that Maguire actually threatened to resign if he was forced by the White House to stonewall Congress. He's denied that in a statement, saying, "I've never quit anything in my life, and I'm not beginning now." And he's also said that he's committed to a whistleblower protection and to following the law. Michael?
All right, Terry, thank you so much. And we have there are two big questions this morning. What is in that whistleblower's complaint, and what does it mean for the president? Let's bring in Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas in Washington with the latest. Good morning, Pierre.
Michael, good morning. There's an effort underway to try to get the complaint declassified and perhaps released as early as this morning, maybe even after that upcoming and critical hearing. Only a handful of Intelligence Committee members have actually seen the whistleblower's allegations, only allowed to look at it in a secure room on Capitol Hill. One committee member saying it pointed to numerous documents and other witnesses that led the Inspector General to call the whistleblower's complaint credible and a matter of urgent concern. The whistleblower is still trying to get clearance to talk to Congress. Unclear when that's going to happen, Michael.
And Pierre, what do we know about the role of Attorney General William Barr? The president telling Ukraine's leader that Barr would be involved in the investigation. The DOJ denies that, but some members of Congress now are demanding he recuse himself.
Michael, Justice Department officials say that Barr learned about the whistleblower's complaint weeks after the call between the two leaders, and only when the department was notified by intelligence officials that there was a potential problem. They say the decision not to pursue a criminal prosecution was done by the book, that Barr was essentially played no role, so they're scoffing at the notion that he should recuse himself because he never spoke to the president about investigating Joe Biden, Michael.
All right, Pierre Thomas, thank you. George?
Hey, Michael, thanks. Another big question. How is this all being seen by the new Ukrainian government as their president pushed for a meeting in support from President Trump? Our chief national affairs correspondent, Tom Yamas, is in the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, with new reporting. And Tom, the new Ukrainian president's team understood that there was a precondition to any phone call with President Trump.
George, good morning from Kiev. A former advisor to President Zelensky tells ABC News after the Ukrainian election in April, his team was eager to set up a meeting or a call with President Trump. but they said they quickly understood there had to be some ground rules, and those ground rules involved having to discuss the Bidens. Now, we know from the call summary released yesterday, President Zelensky tells President Trump his office is in contact with Rudy Giuliani. Now, the former advisor, who is a Trump critic, told us yesterday, and this is a direct quote, it was a clear fact that Trump wants to meet only if the Bidens will be included. Now, we know they eventually did discuss that on the call in July. Today, this former advisor is clarifying his comments after his quote gained lots of attention all over the world. He's now telling us this was not inside information, but rather common knowledge. So why would Ukraine's new president want to help President Trump, or at least appear to want to help them? First, President Zelensky is new to politics. He's a comedic actor who went directly from playing a president on a popular TV show right here in Ukraine to becoming the real president of the country. Second, he needs the U.S.'s help. Hundreds of millions in aid, military support, and a partnership on the global stage, George.
And Tom, you were also in Kiev this summer, and you spoke to the former prosecutors at the center of this whole controversy.
Yeah, George, that's right. This is the prosecutor who Joe Biden demanded to be fired when he was vice president, Viktor Shokin, who eventually resigned and was widely condemned for not investigating corruption. He was overseeing the prosecutor's office, which did have criminal inquiries into a company Hunter Biden joined the board of after his father got involved in Ukraine, but was found of no wrongdoing on the Biden's part. Now, this former prosecutor, Shokin, tells me he's already spoken to Rudy Giuliani. And when I pressed him and I asked him, why would you want to meddle in U.S. elections? He says this is not meddling. He was simply speaking with Rudy Giuliani, and he is now a private citizen. George?
Tom Yamas, thanks. Let's bring this now to our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, our chief White House correspondent, John Carlin. John, let me begin with you. The president's personal strategy is on display. We saw it all day yesterday. Continue to attack the Bidens at every possible opportunity. But inside the White House, are they prepared for this impeachment battle?
The short answer is no. They had prepared leading up to Mueller. They brought in Emmett Flood, who had experience in the Clinton impeachment. He's now gone. I get the sense that they did not think this was coming. I know they didn't think this was coming because for months they had been telling us they didn't think that Nancy Pelosi would go there. This happened with lightning speed. They do not have the infrastructure either in the White House counsel's office or in the White House communications office to deal with it.
And you heard it in the president's voice yesterday at that last press conference where he said almost ruefully, I thought impeachment was dead.
He did not think this was happening. And it's interesting. You say he's defiant, absolutely defiant, but he seems a little bit spooked by it all and a little bit, uncharacteristically, kind of deflated and not in the fighting mode. I'm sure he will get there, but right now he's freaked out by this.
Understandably, Dan, it seems like, and the White House is facing some second guessing over releasing that memo of the phone call because it does include damaging information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way to read that and not say it's bad for the president. You may say it's not necessarily a crime, you may say it shouldn't be impeachable, but there's no way to fairly read that and not say that this is a potential problem. The question now becomes, what can they do moving from that phone call out? So is there going to be other evidence that comes forward to suggest, just as Tom is talking about, effectively what is a quid pro quo, meaning we're not going to even talk to you unless we're talking about the Bidens? Did they, most importantly, link those dollars that were supposed to go to Ukraine to something coming from the Ukrainian government? And those are the key questions now. So the phone call is really now the starting point, and they're going to be moving out from there to see, is there any other evidence that could be even more problematic?
Dan says the starting point, John, and we're going to have new information within the hour. Yeah. This whole whistleblower complaint is going to be declassified, will be public, and according to some reports, it included conversations the whistleblower may have had with White House officials. That's new witnesses.
New witnesses, and we understand the Inspector General interviewed other witnesses. This goes beyond the phone call, but I think an important point on this question of a quid pro quo, there is an issue here, a potentially impeachable issue, regardless of whether or not there was any effort at a quid pro quo. Simply the idea of the president asking a foreign leader to work with his attorney general to investigate a political rival.
No question that's
in and of itself.
No question that's the case legally, right? Legally, you could still have a campaign finance violation just by solicitation alone. But it certainly makes it more persuasive as a political matter, the more you can show this for that.
Yeah, and I think the other big thing to watch for today is, does this acting director of national intelligence, who did make the criminal referral to the Justice Department, does he believe that this phone call put national security at risk? That could also be a big moment depending on his conclusion. Yeah. Thank you both very much. Let's go to Robin.
You'll have more on that later, but now new developments In the vaping emergency, this afternoon, the CDC is set to announce hundreds of new cases of lung injuries associated with vaping. Steve Osunsami has more from Atlanta. And Steve, we know this comes as the head of the top e-cigarette company steps down. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Robin. It does. We're hearing this morning of another vaping-related death out of Florida. And in Rhode Island, the governor there has banned all e-flavored cigarettes because of all of this. Health officials still aren't sure what's causing people to get sick, but while they figure it out, they're encouraging people who use these products to stop.
Add Georgia to the list. State health officials this morning report that they, too, have a patient who died from a vaping-associated illness. They say the patient had a history of heavy nicotine vaping, but no reported history of vaping THC, the drug that comes from cannabis. The CDC today will share the latest numbers documenting illnesses and deaths linked to vaping, and they're already telling us to expect a dramatic increase.
I expect this week's numbers to be hundreds higher than what we reported last week.
So far this year, more than 530 people from 38 states have gotten sick, and 9 people have died. Almost all of them mostly healthy people who used vaping products and then suddenly had trouble breathing. At a congressional hearing Tuesday, health officials shared that they cannot connect the illnesses to any particular compound or product, and that no single product has been associated with all of the cases. Ruby Johnson's college-age daughter was hospitalized last month. She told Congress they need to do more.
If this was romaine lettuce, the shelves would be empty.
Parents like Jerry Sullivan are warning others. Her 17-year-old son, Eddie, was hospitalized for 15 days.
I feel like, teenagers kind of always have this, it can't happen to me attitude. And I feel like they need to understand that, yes, it can happen to them.
The health concerns are hitting the vaping industry hard. On Wednesday, the CEO of Juul Labs, the biggest e-cigarette company out there, stepped down. The company is facing federal investigations into its marketing practices and facing bans of some of its products. The new CEO is now an executive from Altria, a major tobacco company.
Vaping industry groups blame illegal vaping products for these illnesses, and they're offering a few suggestions. One is to raise the minimum age for tobacco use to 21. The second is to ban the sale of these products on third-party marketplaces like Amazon or eBay. Guys?
All that could help. All right, Steve, thank you.
We have a lot more ahead this morning, including an urgent new warning about the Joker movie. We're going to tell you why the military is concerned. Also, Joaquin Phoenix, the star of the movie, speaking out.
And new allegations against Uber. Is the rideshare company putting profits ahead of passenger safety?
And the iPhone that lasted more than a year underwater, the discovery, not only did it last, it still worked. but first, we're going to go to Rob.
I want to know that trick for sure. I got some new video of this tornado that ripped through Wheaton, Wisconsin 2 nights ago. Governor was out here yesterday touring the 28 homes badly damaged, some of these completely destroyed. This was an EF3 with winds of 150 miles per hour, and it was on the ground for 5.5 miles. Last time they had an EF3 in September was 17 years ago. All right, today the threat drifts to the south. Kansas City, you're in at Kirksville, Davenport, Peoria, damaging winds, large hail, a few tornadoes. Monsoon kicking in. That's that kind of an upper level low, but it's hanging around. So we have flash flood watches still in effect for Phoenix, back through just east of Palm Springs, and we're watching Lorenzo and Karen dangerously close, but we're getting more confident that it'll linger, but should stay very weak as we get in towards Tuesday. Of course, we'll continue to monitor it. Time now for your Sunny Cities, brought to you by Walmart.
Let's take a look at that. Great concentration by the center. He gets both feet in and out. A dominant performance here today. Hand off to the right side. Third and inches. What's your score?
No idea.
Feeling more like summer today and again this weekend, the summer that doesn't want to end. Hey, it's going to be comfortably warm today. Humidity still low, but clouds on the increase. And it's going to turn a little breezy, too, as we track a weather front coming into our area. Expect a stray shower, maybe even a thunderstorm after 3 p.m. and up until 5 p.m. From the 60s to the upper 80s today, and then close to 90 degrees on Saturday. That's near record heat. 87 for Sunday. Can't rule out a stray shower or storm, and more heat going into early October.
A little hazing at the desk this morning.
A little bit.